Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang the bombs bursting in gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
Steve Morris.
How's it going, Steve?
Doing well. How about you?
Excited to be back.
You nice and rejuvenated?
Kinda. I mean, vacations aren't always resting and relaxing, and I fished quite a bit. So I did like 3 days. I got up at like 6 in the morning to go out fishing. It wasn't relaxing get up that early, but yeah, it was fun. It was a fun vacation. I need one of those vacations where I can just like read a book. Like I didn't read one book. I didn't read anything. Did some school board stuff, and did some show stuff, but very little. I wanted to do way more, but just it's like, oh, I'll try to enjoy your vacation too, and yeah, it was.
Yeah, you texted me last night, and you were like, I'm excited to get back to work, but, and I'm like, yeah, me too. But I had a real good time hanging out with Zeta last week.
Yeah, you're
I mean, we leave in like 8 days.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just remember once I left for college, I haven't seen my parents much really since then, just here and there, so I'm just trying to enjoy every second of it. So I didn't get a lot of work done last week either. Kept our gardens afloat.
I appreciate it. You water the garden.
Try to keep the weeds back off those strawberries. I picked them maybe because you were going to do it. You said you were going to pick some weeds, but I don't think you had enough time before you left.
Yeah, I didn't really get to pick much.
So I went through and I thinned out the peppers so that you could see them more clearly. And then I trimmed some powdery mildew off of some of your squash to get them off so that it, I don't know if it spreads or whatever. But
Well, I mentioned someone about that last night, and he said that it's probably from squash bugs and that I should spray it, but then he said cut off the leaves and burn them, which
I threw them pretty far back.
I was thinking
a couple of them might have.
I'd throw them out on the side of the road or something.
Well, I threw them back over towards the big green barrels that you have over there, but they probably need to be I was thinking about that actually. I was like, I wonder.
Well, then he said, let me check what he said though, because he said spray them, which I want to do, but he had this other cool thing. He said, cut the leaves back to the vine, and he says take some water, pennies, and a teaspoon of salt in a quart jar for 24 hours, and then spray the plants. A copper sulfate for fungus, which
I paid money for because I have a bottle that I went out and.
Yes, so I should get some. I should do that and then spray them because I'm like.
So it's water, a penny, and salt.
Yep.
Let it soak for 24 hours, and I'll give you.
It's called oxidization.
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 Sound like a Texan over there.
Yeah, because I noticed my cucumbers are starting to actually have a little bit on it, which my cucumbers are going really well. And I have one cucumber up over in the spot in the wetter section that is come up a little bit. I was like, I think I need to take that. I need to plant it up next to the other cucumbers that are doing really well. And then I think I might even tonight or
Move your
this
beans?
week. No, I think I'm going to cut some of them trees down so that sun gets in there because they're.
I hardly
it's
had
so
the water
wet.
back there. Like
It
like
is
you said,
so wet.
it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I didn't take the water past the corn, basically.
Yeah, it's so wet in that back corner and
The whole week. I mean,
Yeah.
granted it rained a few times,
Right.
but
yeah,
I did
no,
not
it's-
have to worry about that. It made it a little bit easier.
It's super wet back there. So I had 2 rows that were onion seeds that none of them come up. So I think we're not worried about that.
I'm going
It's
to plant radishes where my onions are because
Yeah.
none of them have come up at mine either.
And then I got that 1 row of decent onions. Carrots are coming up. Starting to see them sprout
Yeah.
pretty good. So I got to kind of weed in there. Be careful. The beets, Andrew put rocks around yesterday so no one steps on them. And then we had, because I'm like, where'd they go? Because squash kind of grew over them. So I like turned the squash and stuff. And we
Oh,
weeded.
that must have moved because the other day I almost stepped on them, so they were still visible
Yeah, it's.
on like Wednesday or Thursday. So,
But they're not. It's looking good. It's really starting to come into it. But your squash looks amazing. When I came up here, that looked awesome. That's what I hope mine will look like at some point soon.
I got a
because-
lot of Mel flowers, but there's quite a few spaghetti squash, and I'm getting some more. I don't really know what they're called because I bought a bunch of random squash because Andrea said she loves squash, so I was like, I'm
whatever.
try it all out
Yeah.
and see what we like.
Yeah, I've
Blue
got a-
Hubbard and
I've got a bunch of little ones on there.
yeah, you got a lot of acorn squash coming in, so that's
Yeah.
nice. That'll last you.
Got those. The zucchinis coming up pretty good now. Pumpkins have really come into it. The vine on them is really thick at the root, and my potatoes, I say, are pretty close to being able to dig them up.
And we dug up a couple. I sent you a picture.
Yeah, you had some like and corn.
And
has
those were
really
off
come up.
of like bag potatoes that started sprouting.
Yep. Yeah, we brought some potatoes up there before we went on vacation that were like close to maybe sprouting. So I'm gonna see. Hopefully today they'll be sprouted, and I'll plant them. I might just plant them up in the front where the strawberries are, where that's like more.
Yeah, you
manure
got
in
plenty
there.
of time.
Yeah, the potatoes will grow fast, and but man, those weeds in the front. I was pulling them last night, which they come out real easy, but those things just shot out of
They shot
nowhere.
because I picked them. Look, I think I wrote
Yeah.
you like on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I thinned out all the strawberries, and then I went back after a couple days of rain and me watering, and they were 12, 14 inches
Yeah,
tall. And,
yeah.
and they're pretty easy to pull out,
Yes.
but it's also making sure you don't step on because your strawberries are spreading out nicely. So it's kind of like a game of whatever that is, where you spin it and you put your hands and feet.
Oh, Twister.
Twister. It was like playing Twister out there because they're spreading out. Well, some of them
Yeah.
are very nice.
Yeah, I need to.
It's going to be good next year.
I want to put some, I think, straw around them so they keep the weeds out of there, so you can see them. And then, yeah, like I said, next year I'm going to expand the garden and stuff. But no, thank you for watering it, and no, it looked good. I was so excited, I couldn't wait to get back to see how it looked. The corn's really come up.
Yeah, your corn looks nice and thick and healthy compared. I have some that looks like that.
Yours
but-
starting to come into it, yeah.
But some of mine that already have corn on it are only like 3.5, 4 feet tall, kind of weak looking.
Those tomato plants, I had to put, one of them fell over again. So, the one we fixed, the next one fell over. So I stood it back up and I took one of those white stakes that we use for the fence or whatever, stuck that in there. And I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, I look over and it's like bending over again. It's like bent to stake. So we put 4 stakes around it to hold it up because they're getting so heavy and they're full of tomatoes. They're not orange yet or red yet or whatever, but there's a lot of them on there. So
Yeah, you got to stay on top of pruning them. So, like, if we were to go walk down through mine, like the bottom foot is basically cleared out. You know what I mean? And like,
I probably should have you come over this week and
because once the suckers take over, then it's not giving all the energy to the fruit,
right.
right? So you want it to.
Yeah, I probably should have you come over again and look about maybe trimming them back some because they're huge, but I got some yellow leaves now on the bottom too, kind of there.
Yeah,
So,
I trimmed some off.
yeah.
I don't know. You probably didn't notice, but I did. I
know
did a little
some
bit
of
of
them-
work on, like depending on what sprinkler was going, so I didn't get wet. I'm like weird. I don't like.
Well, I wouldn't
Getting-
want to stand in the sprinkler really either, but we were up with weeding yesterday and then it started to rain for a minute. Luckily, it just was just a minute. And no, we did pretty good. Cleaned up. We got to go up tonight again. And my lettuce is, some of the lettuce almost like where you could pick it.
Yeah, I wanted to take a bite because you have one bunch that's ready.
Yeah,
so
one
you
bunch
could
is nice. Yeah.
I wanted to taste to see if it bolted and it's sour because they say sometimes if it bolts it'll get sour. Like all my broccoli bolted, so I think all my broccoli is just wasting space out there now. I don't think I'm gonna get any broccoli off of it.
Really?
Yeah, like it went to like seed and
Hmm.
so I'll be able to pull those pods off, I guess.
I don't see any Brussels sprouts really started yet. Like the plant looks great, but
Yeah.
it does kind of look like they start maybe folding a little bit. But of course, I've never grown them before, so I don't know exactly what they look like. But and the eggplant's looking pretty good.
Yeah, the
it's all
eggplant
looking
is
good. So
looking real good.
um,
I have kohlrabi, which I've never grown before, but it looks like it's about ready.
yeah. Then what were the other two things we got? Was it basil or something over by my eggplant?
Was that basil?
There was something. I don't know what that's supposed to look like.
But you have something inside of a cage over there by the mint.
So it was mint. That was.
You have mint over there by the tomatoes,
Yes.
which I can spot the mint, but then you have something else that's in the cage, and I had no clue what it is.
Probably some weed that grew up.
I
It's
think
not
it
supposed
is
to
a
be
weed.
there. Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
sure.
I was like, does Tim know this is a weed? I think it's a weed.
Keep protect the weed and make sure it doesn't.
Well, it's in a good cage. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
The cages are holding up nicely because if you go down there and walk through mine, like it's getting so top heavy. I need 6-foot poles, and I'm using 4 and 5-foot poles.
Well, those ones we got from Kevin and Michelle, like they're big tomato plants. Like I said, I mean, one of those stakes wasn't enough, even though it's in a hoop. It like, still went over. So it took 4 of them to put them up and hold it up. So
Well, pretty much all of them I had to put back in the ground. I mean, 'cause
yeah, the
you had
wind
like a
comes through or
little
something.
little tornado must have went right through your garden. Not tornado, but you know what I mean. It was a pretty high power because it threw the fence, and then it knocked down a lot of the corn. Well, not knocked it down, but bent them over.
Yeah, luckily.
Were they still standing up?
They were all
straightened
standing
them
up
all up.
good, yeah.
I packed them in. 'Cause usually you have to do that anyway because the roots will start coming
Right.
up. So you got to
Yeah, I need to get in. I brought some manure up there. Yes, that was more like pure manure, not raw hay in it. I'm hoping I want to put around because I got one squash plant up there that it just doesn't look good, but it has a lot of flowers on it. So I know it's growing, but it doesn't look great. It just doesn't look healthy and stuff. So I really want to put some
You
manure
had
on that.
one that I probably should have just cut the vine on it, but I didn't want to do it. And you'd be like, "What happened to?" I knew I had 3 vines coming off of here because it looked like it was dying back, like it either got waterlogged or.
Something, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you see it?
I wonder if it's the one that I saw that.
But it still had a little bit of green on it, but it looked like it was on its last leg.
It's funny though. It's got flowers on it though, which I don't know. That still might not mean that's healthy.
Yeah, well, that's
but
why I didn't cut it because I saw and I was like, this is.
I think I may put some manure right around that, see if that helps. Put some more nutrients around it, but
Yeah, it's about time to put some bone meal and.
it's supposed to get some rain this week, so
Yeah,
that should really help.
My goal today is to get more straw around with some bone meal, and I need to get a couple more trellises up. I have one I'm trying to make because I have some bird gourds growing, and I have a rack of what are they called? Morning glories.
Yeah.
That I need to plant that are in my kitchen that are because they're a vine, so they're vining out all across.
Go in your kitchen, like a
Oh, yeah.
jungle.
Nikki hasn't said anything to me about it, but I know it's got to be eaten or alive. Like, get that out of my kitchen.
Yeah, I bet. So we last Sunday we left, heading up Pittsburgh. We stopped in Lancaster at the
This is all New Hampshire for
New
everybody
Hampshire.
that's
Yes,
not from New
yes,
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Even though it all sounds like it's Pennsylvania.
Right,
Lancaster
right.
and
We're in Amish County in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we stopped at McDonald's because it's like a tradition apparently or whatever. We stop there every year because it's like an hour from there to Pittsburgh and to use the bathroom. So we did that. Adriana was following us and we pulled out. And Adriana got like stuck behind another car that was slower or whatever. So we get up. We're in Columbia, almost to Colebrook, and this car was in front of me. It was going really slow, and I was like, should I pass it? Like, because they're going like 40, it's 50. I'm like, come on. Road's nice. It's not like it's a bumpy road or anything. But I didn't, and next thing I know, I look, and there's this silver Volkswagen car, like, crossing the line, and the car in front of me, like, kind of like swerved over. And I'm thinking, like, this person's probably texting or driving, whatever, which most of us are guilty of that. You're on your phone, you look up, you're like, oh, crap, I'm waiting for that. Never happens. So I swerve like a little harder, and dude hits the back of the boat. I look in the rearview and see it like just poof, dust and whatever. Keeps going, doesn't even stop. And I'm like, I'm pissed. I am pissed. So I get out. Luckily, didn't hit my truck or anything because
So he kept going?
kept
Did
going.
he turn around and come back?
Nope. So I pull over.
You have his license plate?
That all happened so quick. It was super quick. Luckily, none of us in the vehicle are obviously hurt or anything like that, which is all that really matters at the end of the day. But he hit where the license plate is, and then the side thing that keeps the boat in there. I don't know the technical name of it.
Rail.
Whatever. He hit that, which pushed it into the boat, put a hole in the boat, put a little dent in the boat, and just kept going. And I'm like, I'm pretty pissed. So I called 911 and talked to the guy and like, listen, no one's hurt. But my bigger concern is this dude just hit and run, and who knows, he's probably on the other side of the road up a little further, he's going to hit someone head on or whatever, which at that point we were super we were scared because Adriano wasn't that far behind us. So Andrew's like calling him, saying, you told her what just happened, and like scared that he could get hit head on. But we're super thankful because if he was right behind us, that car would have hit him head on in 50.
Did the cops ever catch the guy? Or?
Yeah, so Adriano saw the guy on the side of the road. So apparently when he hit the boat, it flattened his tires, left front tire. So Adriano and Emilio and then the two girls are in the back of that car stop, and they're like, you just hit my effing parent. Like they're pissed too. And, this kid's like, he's probably 19, 20. He's like Adriano's age. Weird. He's wearing just like gym shorts kind of things. Like no shoes, no shirt.
Country living out there in the
I don't know.
backwoods,
Just left Pittsburgh apparently. So me and Devin start walking up the road because I'm like, well, let's see what's in the road. I want to take pictures and stuff so that, if maybe they catch a guy or whatever. Because at this point, I don't know. 911 said that they sent an officer and all that. And I was like, okay, thank you. And so I find his glass part of his mirror in the breakdown lane, the wood part that was in the side thing of the boat on the road, and then his mirror was actually over in the ditch, the actual whole mirror. And then we get up around the corner, and Adriano saw him. He was on the side of the road changing his tire, and then once he saw me walking up, and like, that's who you hit. Then he, like, I think it dawned on him. Apparently, he thought he hit like a sign or something, but he's doing like a NASCAR style change your tire. Like, I've changed a lot of tires in my life.
He's being quick about it?
Very, very quick about it. And it was a car behind him that was with him, like people that were with him. So the state trooper shows up, and, he's trying to figure out what's all going on. So he sends Drawn on them away, and then Injure brings the boat up. And, man, we were there for almost 2 hours, like, getting all the information. I asked the officer, like, what's his insurance? He's like, well, he doesn't have his insurance card or anything on him right now. So, yeah. So
He probably doesn't have insurance.
He don't have insurance is what I'm going to just guess at this point. So he was actually crying at one point. Andrew said, like, when she went over to him, like, it could have been a lot worse. Like, if you'd hit my car and hurt my child, yeah, you would have had a lot more injuries than a car accident. I can tell you that right now. But hopefully a learning lesson for him. Like, he said he fell asleep. I'm like, dude, how'd you fall asleep? It's 3 o'clock or a little over 3, a little after 3 in the afternoon. You just left Pittsburgh, so it's been a half hour. You've been on the road. No alcohol smell or anything like that. But the other cop, the state trooper was there, and then he had a call. The Columbia cop showed up because his printer, apparently, that the state trooper has in his car was out of paper. So the guy brought it, and that cop was pretty cool. And they're going to talk to him after. And, of course, I realized, like, the boat trailer isn't registered. It's like, I won't give you a ticket for that. And I'm like, you do. I don't care. It is what it is. But he gave this guy a summon or ticket for crossing the yellow line. Probably should have been more hit and run and all kinds of things. But then I think he was going to check into it a little more because I was pretty suspicious that the guy that was with him kind of seemed that stayed with him. So he sent the other car that was with him away, but the guy stayed, which I think his friend's probably going to drive, not let the other kid drive. But he seemed kind of nervous when the cop was around the car, so I'm wondering if there was some sort of drugs in the car. Not that he was necessarily on them, or he could have just been partying all weekend, but
Got up early fishing, sun dried
Well-
him out and wore him out.
it's funny. His car was dirty. It's like, I mean, it looked like he went four-wheeling with
Oh.
it. It was just weird. There was some weird stuff with it, but luckily, I mean, that's
The good news is everybody's safe.
everyone's safe. I was able to put some silicone stuff on the side of the boat so I could actually use the boat.
Basically hot glued it together.
Yeah, kind of. So I was able to use the boat while we were there. It wasn't leaking and stuff. So it didn't wreck vacation, because that's why I was like, yeah, this dude just hit the boat. Now that, and I wasn't even going to bring the boat, because the boat's literally been sitting since last year from Pittsburgh, because the little water impeller thing like burnt out or whatever, so it was overheating. And I just hadn't fixed it. Amelia brought it up front and called Brown's Marina up on Friday, like, hey, do you have this? Oh, yeah, we have one in stock. So we picked it up Saturday morning because it was late, put it in, and I was like, this ain't the right one. It's too big. It was actually the right one. It just, I don't know a lot. I don't know much about boats, so it worked. And
That's handy.
yeah, luckily
You
they
were
had
able to
it.
fix
Was
your impeller
and fix the damage from the boat from the guy. So all weekend was a little weird because it didn't have that side thing on it, so holding the boat down and stuff. But
you have to put a strap around it.
well, I had a strap. It has a strap, but it was. I still had to be a little careful so that if it bounced too
Well, it's
hard.
definitely not going to pass inspection now.
Yeah, now the trailer needs freaking, like, I have to fix
Weld
that.
it.
I have to fix the thing. Yeah, I didn't see anything. Luck, I mean, he just hit it. Like, if a second sooner, he would have missed it. But a second later, he would have hit it, like, right inside. And if he missed it altogether, I mean, honestly, if you want to think that someone was looking out for everybody here, it was that if he missed the trailer completely, he would have hit the bank head on and probably would have flipped it or whatever, and he probably would have been hurt pretty bad. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it worked out, I guess, for everybody in that way. It just sucks that he doesn't have insurance. Like, and Andrew's like, yeah, it's one of those things though that we don't have insurance, so he's just like scot free. It's like, yeah, you could sue him and do all this. So it's like that's not even worth it. It should be okay. You go to court. I don't have insurance. I can't afford to pay for the damages, which honestly is probably, I don't know, under $2,000 in damage. I don't really know. I'm just throwing numbers out. So it's not like he totaled the boat, but it should be like, all right, well, we can't, then you owe community service or something. You shouldn't be just scot-free, like, oh, you can't pay. Oh, that's too bad. Like, but whatever. And then
Well, the insurance. Well, if he ever gets insurance, he may have it, but we're just guessing since he didn't have his card on him. But like on mine, if I don't have my card, I can pull it up on an app.
yeah.
Because most states will take the app.
Well, I didn't even see him
Pull
with
it
a
up.
phone or anything, so who knows? I don't know.
It could have just been a young kid that partied
I
too
think that's what it
hard
was.
and
I
was
think
just
that's-
tired, and he probably was dozing off.
I think that's what it was, and kind of hoping he'll have insurance, because then it
Makes it easier for you.
Yeah. If not, it's like I'll just leave I mean, it's not leaking, so whatever, and then I'll have to fix the boat trailer, which it's not a huge deal, but it's still inconvenient. Like, I didn't cause any of the issue. If I had hit someone's boat, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, I have insurance, but I would have been like, gotta make it right. Like, just what you do. But so that was the beginning of the vacation. Then, so my brother and his wife and kids stay, and my parents stay at Tall Timbers on Back Lake, and we stayed at one of the Lobsticks cabins, which is a beautiful cabin that could see First Connecticut Lake, so it's not on the water, which we used to stay on the water, which I really liked, but it's kind of hard with the baby too, because you have to constantly watch her. So there's this guy there, so we went fishing there one day, and he like brings these fish over. He has these 3 fish. So he has these trout. One was a 3-pound trout. The other one was like 2.9 pounds, whatever. He just like repeatedly did this day after day. And he's like, oh, I caught them like 8 o'clock over there, whatever. Well, I spent the next 3 mornings on that lake at like 6:30 in the morning, which I sent you one of the pictures, which I'm going to try to use for a backdrop today. Because that was the
You should
highlight.
do the view from where you were staying. That was a nice picture.
That was nice too, yeah. But this dude, I'm like, I didn't see that guy out there fishing. And then,
So what, you not trusting the fish he gave you?
no, the kids ate it.
Oh, was it good?
Yeah.
You didn't eat any of it?
I didn't actually have any of it.
I love trout.
Kids all ate it. But, so we fished there the whole week. My dad caught one trout, rest are bass. I caught one 12-inch trout, rest are bass. Kids, everybody bass. But this dude's getting, record trout out of there. So, he was, I don't know, he was doing something. Like, you're not supposed to use corn, I don't believe, or bread, or I don't know. So someone said you can, someone said you don't. I don't know what the deal is, but there's no way in hell this guy was catching these fish without using something other than a worm like I use, or there's no way. You can't be that lucky. It was the world's luckiest fishing that catch these record fish. Like,
Well, maybe he knows what he's doing. Maybe he's got a casting technique that entices the trout to bite.
maybe.
Maybe you're not as good of a fisherman as you thought. Even though that's
I never
like your
claimed to
number
be
one
a
hobby.
good
I
fisherman,
think it's
but-
one of your...
No, I never claimed to be a good fisherman. I mean, I've caught good fish before, but never trout. And this is a freaking trout lake. I've been there a couple of years, and if it weren't for bass in there, I wouldn't even fish it because it's not worth it. And then the last day we were there, Saturday, went up to 3rd Connecticut. Andrew wanted to go up there and go in the water, so I was like, I'll bring the boat. And we went out there for like 2 hours in the boat, and we didn't even get a bite. And there's lake trout and rainbow in there, which would be nice fish to catch them. But I think it was hot. Like Saturday up there was hot. It was like 87, 86, and humid. Of course, it's been hotter here than up there, and I think it's
humid here.
Yeah,
It's disgusting,
it is.
especially when you don't have central air.
Yeah. So then, all right, 2 more quick stories. So we went to get ice cream one night. So I was the last one in line to get the ice cream, and I got my ice cream, went over, and so my parents, everyone was sitting at the picnic tables, and there's a smaller picnic table. So it wasn't like kid size, small like that, but it was maybe a half size picnic table ish. So I sat on it, and the picnic table went right up in the air. I didn't spill my ice cream though. Everyone's laughing. I'm like, hey, I didn't spill the ice cream. And then was it Thursday night? Thursday night we finally got into the Rainbow Grill, which is one of the restaurants that's at Tall Timbers up there, which we've tried to get in for years. If you don't make a reservation like months in advance, you can't get in, which doesn't make sense because there wasn't many people there. So I think it's probably a staffing thing too. But expensive place. It was 17 of us total.
Oh, wow.
So the bill was like $550, which, split up with us and whatever. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought.
That's
it was
not
going
as
to be.
bad. 17 people
Yeah.
for $550.
So me, Corey, and Sadie's dad, so Emilio's girlfriend's dad, Gary, got a ribeye, which was like, I think just $38 total for the meal with the ribeye. I'm telling you, that was probably the best ribeye I ever had. I've been to steakhouses like David Burke at Foxwood where they have $50, $60, $70 steaks, and this steak was better. Like this was really good. The hostess was a cranky old
Battle axe.
battle axe, yeah, and she wasn't really that old. She wasn't she was older than us probably, but not much. Jesus, but the waitresses are great. Kids all got their food first. There's 2 waitresses, so the kids were kind of at this table, and then the adults were over here. So we had separate waitresses. Man, I wanted the waitress the kids got. They got their food quick. There was like, I'm like, what the hell?
The drinks are refilled promptly.
Yeah, like let's have them pay for it then, But it wasn't actually as bad because we went to lunch at another place like 2 days before that, and it was only 14 of us there. It was just lunch. And I was like $324, which I was like, I mean, it's expensive to eat now. That's why we brought food with us. We had a full kitchen and stuff in this cabin. Well, it's more like a house really, because you can't afford it. I mean, you go to Young's, which is the only store up there that has groceries and different things. And first day I went there and I got a few things. It was like $100. I was like, whew, it's expensive. But
Well, the good news is you'll be getting taxed more after the Senate bill last night. So
Yeah,
you'll have less money to...
talk about that soon. And
Just
yeah. So that's
well, apropos as you're complaining about the cost
I know.
of groceries.
it's a little long about our lives, but we had to make up for a week here. So that was the exciting things, I guess, of my life. And got home last night. Well, I got home yesterday at like a little afternoon, and then went to the land and moved dirt for a few hours and weeded, and because I got to hurry up and get a slab in there. So it's exhausting moving dirt. You don't think it would be, but it is. But so I'll say the position of the day for the school is a bunch of positions. Need 2 special ed teachers. I saw that earlier, but probably will be the last. That's probably the last day we do the position of the day, because if they didn't fill the position, I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well,
then-
for all of our viewers, if you got somebody that needs a job in the school, good,
Yeah.
trustworthy people,
Yeah.
check it out.
There's-
SAU 43.
.org. There's a lot of positions available still that we need to fill, which is really important. Tonight, Car Nuts is doing their first responders fire and police show. It's going to be at Patton's in Croydon, which is right on Route 10, just in the Croydon on the left. Big sign, can't really miss it. And it's from 5 to 8. Normally their show is 6 to 8. Tonight's 5 to 8. They have food, both the Kiwanis, burgers, dogs, sausages. Half off food for first responders in uniform. So that's an incentive right there. If you're a firefighter, police, or EMS or anything, wear your uniform tonight. There's going to be music and a 50-50. And I'm not sure if we'll get time to get there or not tonight, but check that out. That's something fun. So it's a regular cruise night, but also lots of fire trucks and ambulances and police and all that good stuff. So I went to it last year, and it wasn't as good of a turnout as they were looking for. There was something with it, that reason for it, but they had a lot of trucks even last year. So I think this year will be even better. Obviously, it's more preparation they've had. So if you're wanting to do something tonight, get out with the kids or whatever, don't want to cook dinner and you want to just go get some burgers and dogs from Kiwanis, that's ours.
Apologize for checking that. Zeta's at the vet with the
You're
2
fine.
dogs. So I just want to make sure that.
Should I bring them both?
Yeah, and then, of course, my lovely wife did not write down the appointment time, so I called at like 8:10 to verify the appointment time, and she's like, I'll see you in about 20 minutes.
Where's the appointment?
Grantham.
Okay.
So she left at about, 8:15, so she probably got there at about 8:31. Classic Morris's. Get about half the information. We know the day, or we know the time and not the day. We're not very good at that. As my father-in-law says, we're pretty unreliable when it comes to making plans. Between the two of us, I don't like to commit to anything, ever. I'm very non-committal.
I know this is hard to get you to commit to this.
Well, I thought I was going to be the editor off the screen. I was going to be like Jamie is to Joe Rogan, or I don't even know if he's still on there. I don't really watch it anymore.
I know, now next week, so you're going to be gone next week, and I got to figure out, how am I going to do a show without Steve? I'm like, I'll have to figure it out. But hey, if anyone out there wants to guest host, because talking to the camera is a lot harder than talking to you. Just want to point that out.
You just look at it and
How are you?
pontificate.
Yes. I'm looking at a brown wall over there, and it's like, yeah, how's it going? Yeah. Farmers market every Friday, 3 to 6, as we've said a million times. But they must have some really good produce out there now, though.
Yeah, for everybody that's a month ahead of us, they got to have some
Yeah.
real.
For the real gardeners out there that have all this stuff out there. And this Sunday's concert on the Common is Brian
Devenger.
Devenger.
I don't know how you pronounce that, but I would
Yeah.
act like it's Devenger.
There's only 2 left this week.
I saw that on the
Yeah.
sign when I drove by. I'm like, man, it's going to end before I even get back.
Crazy. Crazy. Summer is just like flown by. I mean, trust me, I'm complaining about the heat all week because I'm so sick of the heat. But you wait a couple
say-
months. I
well,
promise you
not
I'll be
even a
complaining
couple
about the.
months. Like when we first moved here, and we were driving from my brother's house to Zeta soccer practice. We had the top down on the Jeep, and they had soccer practice at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning their freshman year, and it was freezing, especially with the top down. So I was like, Zeta was complaining this morning. I was like, well, if you remember about this time 4 years ago, I was like, so at any day now, the mornings are going to be back into the 40s and 50s. And we'll be able to open the doors back up, and hopefully the humidity will
You give
be
me
gone.
a couple months. I'll be bitching about the cold. Just calling it right now. School board meeting this Thursday, 5 o'clock, Thompson Room. A lot of stuff on the agenda. So come on out. Public comment is at the beginning of the meeting. And which I really want to we should figure something out with that. Like I've talked about the whole changing the time thing, but I wonder if we could like talk as a board. Like, what if we did? I'm just putting this out there. Tim, the resident, putting this out there. Steve, the school board member. I know I'm the school board member now too, but couldn't we do something where, like I said before, like 5 o'clock meeting is early. However, when we have a long meeting, and when you have a long meeting and you still get out at 7 o'clock, it's like, hey, it's early. If you start at 6:30, it's gonna be really late. You can answer that.
You want me to answer it?
You
Find
want-
out what's going on with the vet?
You can talk about the vet, and I'll talk about what's next on here, and then we'll go back to the school board thing. Anyways, I wonder if we could put. So, he's
I'm
gonna.
doing the show.
He's talking to Zeta right now. She's at the vet. So, I want to say congratulations to Blackbeard's Cove.
You can.
Mini golf is #1 in New Hampshire,
Sure.
which is the one that Nick has over at Timeout Bar and Grill,
And you pick it.
which I've played 4 times now,
Love you, bud.
and I've won every time. I've even beaten the golf pro over here next to me. So congratulations to Nick. Blackbeard's mini golf over there, Blackbeard's Cove mini golf,
Yep.
black light one, #1 in New Hampshire.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome. So anyways, I wonder if we could do something where, because by law we have to have public comment begin, right? They've passed that.
Would this be better off held at the board? I don't want to be accused of having some.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to just bring this suggestion out. I was just thinking about this thing. You're not going to predetermine anything anyways, but
Right. I don't. I only speak on behalf of me, and you do as well. We don't speak on behalf of the board.
exactly. We don't speak on behalf of none of it.
You're just throwing this out there to the public, and if anybody that watches,
Yeah,
today,
'cause
that they can
this is this
provide
idea-
feedback.
Yes,
come
I-
to the board and tell us.
Correct. I have this idea, and I'm wondering if it could work. So we have to have public comment in the beginning. I'm fine with that. So we have our public comment. 1 person's there, no people there, 10 people there, whatever. But what if at the end of the meeting, you had another section of public comment, as if, like the last meeting, Ed Carr got there late, whatever reason, I don't know. And we did, and Jenna let him speak, which was, I'm glad. But I wonder if for some of these people that can't get there at 5, could speak at the end. You know what I'm saying? Like if you had some sort of, because you have to legally have it in the
gotcha.
beginning.
This isn't real. Yeah. So I can feel free to discuss
Yeah.
this. So what I think is, because in like that case where
Right.
he was allowed to speak, I think that's kind of a precedent, and I think that
Because some people can't get there at 5.
The way that, because we talked about this at the last board meeting, is working on public relations, getting there and making sure the community knows that they're being listened to, and it's not just talking to a wall and we walk out. And I think this kind of goes in line with that. And so I would imagine that Jenna being fair would allow that if it happens again in the future. But what
Right.
you're saying is your recommendation that you're throwing out there is, if, because we have to allow up to an hour for public comment at the front,
Right.
and especially in those cases where it may only take 10 minutes of public comment at the front.
Right.
If somebody shows up late, that we give them an opportunity to speak,
Right.
which I think Jenna has addressed that before,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like a precedent now, and it's only fair. But I don't want to speak for her or for the board, but I
Right.
think that just with a precedent being set, that would just be the fair thing to do.
Because so many people have talked about, I have many times myself talked about the time, but then I did think about that because we had one meeting that went long. When I wasn't on the board, I just either way I was gonna like, whether I was on the board or not on the board, I was still gonna go to every meeting. I was like, man, this is a long meeting, but it's 7 o'clock. Like, that's pretty cool. So it's not like, oh, we're here at 11 o'clock at night. So
So you're seeing some of the benefits of having
I
it
am
earlier.
seeing some of the benefits of having an earlier meeting. I would just like to see if,
I think as public servants, when we put that hat on, that it's only fair and right to try to give them a chance. Like if
right. So
if you show up even at 5:10
correct.
and you miss the sign up time,
Do I just let them speak?
and I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and rewatch the tapes, but I'm pretty sure even at the end of public comment, I think Jenna's like, is there anyone else that we
Yep.
missed or whatever?
She's done
So
that.
like
Yep.
she's given the opportunity, and so I think that we've seen some transition, and when we were going as citizens, it was some hot button topics that
Right.
they necessarily didn't want to listen
Right.
to us. Is the way that I felt about it anyway.
But as I sat there, like, Mr. Carr is behind us, and I mean, his wife worked in school for years, and he's been a resident in Newport forever. Like, it's like, are we really not going to let him speak? Now, granted, at that point, I was just a resident. I was just sitting there. That was the night we did our interview thing. And I thought, I was like, what if could we do that? Like,
But she did it, right?
She did do it. She
so
did.
I think that.
So maybe we could just, I was thinking maybe I mentioned that on Thursday. Like, is there something we could do so that, because some people are like, well, I can't get there at 5 o'clock, so screw it, I'm not going to go. Okay, but if you can get there at 5:30 and you still had something you like to say, maybe you wait until the business stuff's done at that point, because you have people there or whatever.
You're saying
Just having that
make a
opportunity.
recommendation to either codify it or at least have like someone address it, which I think with a precedent being set that you know what I mean, like it's just it's because we want community involvement, and if someone does show up late, and I don't want to speak for the chairperson, chairwoman.
And obviously, if you spoke the first time, I'm not going to let you speak at the second thing. It's just if there's some people that couldn't make it, if they had something to say, like I did, and like I said, Jenna was great. She let him speak about something that was important, and
I think it's as long as we're fair. Like that would be my.
I see a whole. I feel a whole new something with the board. Like I feel like it's going to accomplish a lot now. I really do. A lot of changes. New super is great. She's on top of things, so I'm excited. So really, show up to the board meetings now, especially because I'm telling you, your voice will be heard. And I know I reached out to the superintendent on something, and she looked into it heavily. And so if I know some parents out there feel that things are overlooked in the past, well, please don't think that's just the way it's going to be from now on. Come forward with the new superintendent because she's on top of stuff. She's really good. You guys did a good job picking her.
Well, from my perspective individually, from the way that I was treated when I was not on the board, I try to approach things where, I'm not going to agree with everybody, but I'm not going to not give them a chance to speak or be heard. If I have anything, you know what I mean? That's just my own individual opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of you or anybody else. I just think that it's important for people to be heard. That's how I was when I was in HR, is if someone shows up, that's the most important thing for them. It's a little bit different. Like when you go out to eat, like that's not necessarily the most important part of your day. But if you're showing up to the HR office, if you're showing up to a board meeting, a selectman meeting, something is important to you. And the people who have the responsibility and the quote-unquote power or whatever, the authority to allow you to be able to speak should allow you to speak. Like if someone shows up during lunchtime and you take care of them because that's the only time they can come in there. You don't like, well, I'm eating my lunch. Well, yeah, eat your lunch, but also help them. Pause your lunch because there are people who rely on your function. And so for me as a board member, me individually, if someone shows up, and even if I disagree with what they're saying, they need to be heard because I might not know everything that I think I know. And, I need to hear what they have to say so that I can make a decision or help them or ask the right questions if questions need to be asked. So, and I'm pretty sure that, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I think that that's the way forward based on precedent that's been set over the last few months. I think that's fair to say. So show up if you can. If you can show up before 5 and sign up, great. If not, I'm not promising anything because I don't run the meetings, but there has been a precedent to where if it's the right thing to do, then
I think I'll mention it on Thursday and just see what the board thinks, and just because I feel like we want this especially the new super wants transparency, which is, I think at this point, all of us on this in this country want transparency in our government that we're not getting.
Yeah, it's been a topic since
And
at least
that's-
2008.
Yeah, and that's a big thing with her, which is good. So I just feel like I'll just mention this, see what the board says. But I know we can't put public comment in the end because it has to be in the beginning, which I understand all that, and I agree with it. But maybe we could have like a part 2 if needed. You know, oh, no one's here? Okay, go on, no big deal. So we have a correction. I put this on Facebook earlier this week when I saw it, but so the check to Sununu's campaign
Yeah,
was
so I conflated the numbers, so it's totally on me. I apologize, but basically what happened, this is with a Gunstock
Yep.
situation that I think it was on our last episode we had talked about.
Yeah, it was.
But there was $140,000 in performance bonuses for like the executives or the higher ups at the mountain. There was $110,000 for what some consider a frivolous lawsuit, in the sense that it was trying to take authority away from the actual commission that's like given to them by law. And then there was the $500 political donation to Sununu, and I conflated it all to $250,000 to Sununu. So I conflated those numbers, and the numbers are, again, $140,000 questionable, or at least it's being questioned by some for performance bonuses, and then $110,000 for a lawsuit that some consider frivolous, and then the $500 political donation to the Friends of Sununu, or I don't recall the name. I didn't write that down, but
Yeah,
so
it
it
was
was,
Friends of Sununu.
it was over
re-election campaign or something.
$250,000 of questionable expenditures. Of that, $500 was a political contribution. So I just want to make sure that I correct myself and I don't.
Yeah, because that's what we do on the show. If we make a mistake, we correct ourselves. Unlike some places that would just be like, nothing to see here, folks. Keep going.
Well, we could put it up at the bottom, or a tiny little print at the end of
That's
the show.
true. That's true. But we don't, because this is not us. There's the other thing, too, I saw that, so if...
Continuing on with Gunstock.
Continue
local
on
news for
with
New Hampshire's.
Gunstock. So, theresolve.com or We the People Facebook page, which is run by Therese, who's a nurse who got fired over not getting a vaccine, which has just fueled her, as in, like, hey, all right, I'm done with this overstep of government. So she runs this whole thing now. She's also one of the ones that was arrested in an executive council meeting for saying amen. So that she's,
What do they call it? The Concord Nine? What?
yeah,
Something
like that, yeah. So Sununu allegedly had those officers just selectively arrest those 9 people, which one of them was like an 80-year-old lady. But anyways, so another Gunstock thing is, so this man named Dan Russell, must have been like 18 years ago, started this thing called Soul Fest, which is like a big Christian bands and whatever festival that they do at Gunstock every year. So this year, or not, last year was their last year there. Basically, the former person that ran Gunstock
This is the same gentleman that
is the same gentleman who gave the donation.
allegedly has a job lined up at Parks and Rec.
Yes.
That's friends with Sununu, allegedly.
So he told, so Russell, who does the Soul Fest, said that Gunstock Management told him last year the event would no longer be welcome, even with 5 years left on his contract. So it's under contract, and sorry, we don't care, basically. Lawyers got involved before Russell agreed to relocate. He probably figured, well, it's not worth, I'll have to fight this in court, spend money, whatever. And he looked for multiple spots in New Hampshire before he reached an agreement with the Moody Center, which I don't know where that is. But basically this little deal here costs New Hampshire, and especially the residents of Belknap County who own Gunstock Mountain, like millions of dollars. This isn't just like, oh, hey, me and Steve are going to have a little concert and a few people are showing up. Like, this is a huge, huge freaking thing. So, yeah.
The D.L. Moody Center, is that in Mass? Northfield, Mass? Oh, yeah, it's got, I would suspect, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the...
Oh, yeah, Soulfest.
yeah, there you go. So
They
they
moved it, so
yeah.
so that money was lost.
Yes.
New Hampshire lost that
Yeah, New Hampshire lost that money, which comes back to this audit and all this stuff that's going on there.
Did it say why he canceled their contract?
Nope. I mean, the story alleged that I heard in here, on this was basically that, apparently he just doesn't like Christians or something. But like I said, that's hearsay alleged from.
That sounds like.
That was from here, nothing else.
Well, I can tell you this much as a former government employee that's not the reason that he canceled that contract or got. You know what I'm saying? Like there had to have been I would assume, and I'm assuming that there was a technical reason that he canceled that contract, and people might perceive it as an anti-Christian move, but it could have been something else. I'm not signing my name on to that accusation.
Well, no, I'm not either. Someone else said that. I didn't. I'm just repeating.
No, I know. I got you. But.
So basically, it says, why did Tom Day, the general manager, cancel the multi-million-dollar contract? And this is what she says. Is it because he doesn't like Christians? ? He did this in his silo without the commission or the people who own the mountain, which is the Belknap residents' consent. So, and then the audit will show how he spent money to figure out how they canceled the contract that had 6 years left. This is on here, so 5 would be after this one. So, there's a lot going on in this whole audit thing that's happening up there.
So just keep your eye on the audit, and this is yet another thing because there are thousands of people in the pictures anyway. So and they say it's a multi-million-dollar contract. So there had to be a nice, injection of money into the economy up there.
Yeah, and
that's a yearly thing, and there was a 5-year contract. I would suspect
5 years left, but they've been there for 17 years.
So the business owners that rely on that every year, because I would suspect that they project out, we got Soulfest coming up, so, order more of this and be prepared for this, and it'll be a nice...
Yeah, it's like a concert. It's like...
Yeah, you rely on it over time, especially when you think you got 5 more years left.
Right. It'd be like the New Hampshire Pavilion, saying, oh, yeah, no,
Yeah. That's crazy. So anyway, keep your eye out. Keep researching on Gunstock, as we will continue to do, just to make sure that you know what's going on in our own home state.
Yeah. All right. Meme of the day. Hating your country is like hating your parents and still living at home. Move out. Be happy somewhere else. True.
Well, I always tell everybody that when they're, able to, they should go out on their own and become their own man or woman. Find out who they are, see if they can, if we're doing what we're supposed to do as parents and as educators, we're supposed to be preparing them for life.
Yeah. So, I finally figured out how to use videos. Took me a while to still figure it out, but I finally figured it out. I had to download this converter. So you put it in the URL link, and it converts it to it. And then I was like, and it did it. I'm like, yay. And I'm like, the hell, it doesn't work. Then I had to look that up because Mac doesn't recognize that format. So I had to change it to MOV, which Mac recognizes. So now we can finally use. So I have 2 videos coming up, but I want to play, and I don't care anymore.
Have you figured out how to play it behind us, and the sound comes through, and we can watch it on one of our laptops as the audience watches it? You can pause it and comment, or is that the? See, that's what I thought I was going to be learning whenever you were talking about doing the show. I was like, I used to love computers.
We could do this
I used
if you
to
want to
break
hire
computers
someone to
down
do
back
that.
in the day.
We could hire another person to.
Like
do
I
this.
love that kind of stuff, even though I don't really have much time for it anymore. It was like my best class in college. My first 2 years was computer science. Like the only thing that probably kept me afloat.
Anyway, so we play videos now. I have some.
Hey, I had to tell a little story about me. I listened to you talk about your vacation for 28 minutes.
Let's spend the next.
You
20
look at me like, yeah,
time
you want
with
to tell us more about your college experience? I'm like, I'm working on becoming the behind-the-scenes guy.
That ain't gonna happen.
You're looking at me like...
People tune in every day just like, what are they going to fight about today? It's all good. It's all entertainment. No, so we finally can use those. And I'm sure, like, so we just did the new intro, which is kind of long. Steve said it's kind of long. We should cut it back, which I can do that. I can shorten it. Because I agree, it is long. I just wanted to, like...
Yeah, I think
figure
we
out-
should show it off so everybody hears, like, maybe on Mondays we do the long
Yeah.
one, starting off the week, right?
And we'll shorten it a little bit for every day, so it's not super long, you know. But I don't, like... So every time I do this on YouTube, like, I got the non-copyrighted... Remember, I had one show, we had the music at the beginning, and then it, like, flagged me saying... So I don't care anymore. Now I don't care, because they'll say, oh, we'll demonetize you. But go ahead, because we have, like, 1,500 subscribers... Which don't, I know a lot of those are probably bot. I know most of those are bots, but whatever. But the watch hours have gone down over the last 2 weeks. That's not possible. And they won't monetize your show until you get 1,000 watch hours. So it's just a game they're playing. So I don't care anymore. So I'm just going to play whatever I want. So there's a song I want to play tomorrow. It's called In God We Trust by these 4 singers. And I think it's a good song. And the words...
Can't you write them and ask them if you can play it?
I can, but I don't care.
And give them, like, credit? What if you give them credit for it?
I'll give them credit. YouTube's still going to be like, oh, you couldn't use that. I don't care. I don't care. So, but tomorrow I want to play that because the wording in it is so true to everything we talk about on the show. It's good. And they're starting to get more people, more mainstream people involved with this whole, like, what's happening. John Rich with Big and Rich just wrote a song about progress and basically you shut up your ass because look where everything's going. And then Kid Rock has a song called We the People, which is really good too. But this other one I want to play tomorrow. I was just saying I don't care, but because that's what's going to happen. They'll be like, well, we're going to demonetize. Demonetize, you don't pay us for anything anyways. The only people that pay us for the show is Twin State Paving.
Appreciate Twin State Paving.
Yes. Thank you for sticking with us. And I told her this month, I said it's a week less in the show. So
Prorate the amount.
Prorate the amount, exactly. So did you see that they passed the Inflation Reduction Act
Last night,
which is supposedly going to double the amount of IRS agents they have. 7,000.
To investigate me and you.
Yeah, because if you really think if they're going to investigate big businesses, you live under a rock, I guess. You don't know what's going on in the world anymore because...
And it's funny, too, because are you playing the Ted Cruz clip?
I am. I'm going to do that towards the end, but...
Yeah, so it's just interesting that they are trying to make it that if you relate to our history, such as the founding of this country and why it was founded, the battle cry, the come and take it flag, you know, it's all combined, but it's a reminder that our country started off because we got tired of being taxed without anybody asking us.
Taxation without representation.
And the amount of money that they are taking from our taxes and sending overseas is getting to the point of ridiculousness. And they probably can see some writing on the wall that most average Americans, no matter their party, political affiliation, this is my take as a guy who studied political science in college, that most Americans are going to remember that we don't like being told what to do, and we're getting tired of not having our own money that we're working for, because you're basically making us slaves to all these other countries. Am I wrong?
I agree.
Like, if you're taking my hard-earned money, which, granted, I'm on a retirement, but I still pay taxes because they don't tax it enough, so I still end up paying quite a bit in taxes from my own retirement. My wife pays a lot of taxes, and where's it going?
To other countries?
I can tell you this much. I don't have high-speed internet coming to my house. Half the roads in this town are, borderline undrivable. Maybe not half, but there's quite a few that if you were to drive around and take video, you'd be like, that's America? I mean, there's some, like, just going up to your property. Like, that road is turning into Barton Whitney.
Just for the record, okay, roads in New Hampshire are still way better than so many other states. It's crazy.
No, I know. But I'm saying, so it applies to us here that
Right.
I'm using roads and internet. Like, that should be a public service at this point.
Oh, so talk about that. So my phone in Pittsburgh worked like perfect. Like there's certain spots it won't work well, but it never has. But at the cabin up there, boom, perfect service. As soon as I got back here, we stopped at Wendy's on the way home in West Lab, and I'm like, yeah, one bar knows like doesn't work. Doesn't work.
From the right after the Corbin Bridge, basically,
Yep.
or Croydon. We'll just call it Croydon. From
Yep.
Croydon all the way into Lab, my phone does not connect now. I got a
Yeah.
new phone
Yes.
a month and a half ago, and I have no connection from Croydon all the way to Lab. And you can see the towers because they look like fake
Yeah.
trees. I'm right underneath it, and it's like no service.
I like to know what's going on there. Someone was complaining the other day about Comcast and Claremont not working or whatever. Why is the internet? Why does the phone not work? You have towers everywhere.
Well, see, that's my big complaint. So people will think you can say whatever you want about me, but if you're going to tax us at these large rates, right? Like, because this bill, if it passes as it is going to tax us more in the middle class.
Right. Well, I have it right here if you want to look at. So
You got the breakdown of it?
yeah, this is a breakdown, the summary, which the Inflation Reduction Act. So we're going to spend more money to bring inflation down, which isn't that like a
They should stop printing money.
yeah, because they got us in this to start with. So
The trillions and that's both administrations. I don't want people to sit here and
No.
say I'm being political.
no,
Trump signed $1 trillion packages as well.
that all went overseas, except for this much.
Hey, they took months to send out $600 to citizens of their own money back to them. Most of them, or half, whatever the breakdown is for, because not everybody pays taxes, but so half the people that pay taxes got $600 back of their taxes. Meanwhile, they'll go past
Most of the
billions
ones
of
that got it-
dollars to send to Ukraine today.
So
Again, it would be like Nikki's making this much money at work. I make this much money with my retirement. Let's go ahead and spend more than those two combined every single month. Like, how long would it be before I lost my house and everything in there?
so
Like, that's just common sense. There's nothing political about that, by the way.
let's
That's just called, management of funds,
so the
basic math.
Inflation Reduction Act 2022 will make a historic down payment on deficit reduction to fight inflation, invest in domestic energy production and manufacturing,
How is it
and
going
reduce
to
carbon emissions
reduce
by
the
20%.
deficit if it's spending more?
Well, because here we go.
All right, break it down
We'll
for
get
me.
to the
All right,
the lies of
I'm
the whole
getting
thing.
worked up over here.
The bill will also finally allow Medicare to negotiate for prescription drug prices and extend the Affordable Care Act program for 3 years through 2025. So now Hassan gets her way, and she can actually say that I was fighting for, prescription price, Okay.
Whatever. Like, there's no reform. Let me just tell you this much. If you know anybody that's older, that's on Social Security, the majority of their Social Security goes to pay for their prescriptions every month.
Yep.
Unless they don't go to the doctor, and then
The new proposal for fiscal year 2022 budget reconciliation bill will invest approximately $300 billion in deficit reduction and $369 billion in energy security and climate change programs over the next 10 years.
how's that treating the Netherlands over there?
Yeah, and additionally, the agreement calls for comprehensive permitting reform legislation to be passed before the end of fiscal year. Permitting reform is essential for unlocking domestic energy and transmission projects, which will lower the cost of consumers and help meet our long-term emission goals. Which,
So now we're going to charge people more for their ideas. Like, none of this makes sense. Taxes are,
they're a bunch of.
it's just,
So, $739 billion is this total revenue raise. This is what they're saying. Okay, 15% corporate tax, minimum tax would be $313 billion. Prescription drug price reform would be $288 billion. How the hell is that going to cause more taxes? That's what just going to be passed on to you who can't afford your prescription drugs as it is. IRS enforcement, tax enforcement, $124 billion. Do you think they're going after big companies?
I want to know, like, seriously, I understand people need jobs, but it must take a certain type of person to go work for the IRS to come and haggle with people over a $500 underpayment, which most people probably overpay unless they have a
Yeah.
CPA.
And then a carried interest loophole, whatever the hell that means, $14 billion.
I'm sure it's
Total investments, $433 billion. Energy security and climate change, $369 billion. Affordable Care Act expansion, $64 billion. Total deficit reduction, we're going to reduce it at least $300 billion.
so we're going to spend 700 to save 300 billion. So you're still spending 439 billion over. This is just
So here's the
disappointing.
keys here. Enacts a historic deficit reduction to fight inflation. That right there is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Lowers energy costs, increase cleaner production.
How
and
does it
reduce
lower
carbon emissions.
energy cost?
Because soon they're going to say you can't drive your gas car anymore.
No,
You know what's happening. Allows Medicaid to negotiate drug prices and cap out pocket expenses to $2,000. Yeah.
$2,000. What is that? Like a month? A year?
Right.
Because I mean, if
Exactly.
you paid the most into Social Security when you were working, what do you get? $2,200 a month.
It's going to lower the.
So you get $230 to spend. I mean, I'm
but
doing.
it's going to lower.
I'm doing BS math, but I'm just saying. I'm assuming. I'm making assumptions here.
It
But
lowers the Affordable Care Act health care premiums for millions of Americans. Millions of what? Welfare Americans? Makes the biggest corporations and ultra wealthy pay their fair share. Right there, it's a.
yeah, that's a
BS.
garbage.
So, like Bernie Sanders and them people that have 3-4 houses that talk about equality all the time, they're going to pay their fair share. Just curious. There's no new taxes on families making $400,000 or less. No new taxes on small businesses. We are closing tax loopholes and enforcing tax codes. You're enforcing tax codes, so now you're going to do your job. Now you're going to enforce tax codes.
No, they're going to enforce
on
the
me
tax
and
code
you.
on me and you. They're
Right.
They're going to send some poor schlep out here to go
Yeah.
over all of my finances
Good luck.
to get probably me a $500 more. Because I tend to overpay because I don't want to go to jail. But I'm getting to the point to where I'm getting pretty annoyed with these federal taxes all going overseas.
Yeah, why would you pay taxes in this country when you pay state taxes because that benefits your state and benefits you. The federal taxes benefits every country but us. I'm sick of being the sugar daddy of the frickin' world. And then they all shit on us and tell us how bad we are.
Somebody ran on that back in the day.
Yeah.
Said, why are we paying everybody else's share for everything?
The most evil
It puts
man
the
ever.
burden on us as taxpayers. Like it should be uniting across all fronts. Like the regardless of whatever your political persuasion is, you should be like, I want my money to benefit my friends, family, and my country. Yeah, I understand strategic implications here and there, and so we got to spend a little bit of money to, make the world safer for us to protect our interest. But come on, man. I'm going to give a little come on, man, to the whole. And I know people that pay a lot of taxes, and so you're punished for working harder. The harder you work, the more money you make, is how it usually is in America, right? Like that's the American dream, is that anybody can start off at any level, and we can all be successful and become, financially independent and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. If you see how much people pay that make a lot of money, you'd be like, why even work so hard, man?
Well, someone said the person that won the Mega Millions the other day, that was 1.3 billion or whatever, was like,
Congratulations to the IRS,
IRS
for
was
their
like-
800.
yeah, 800 something million they get. What did they do for that money? What did they do?
They didn't.
Nothing. Why should you give the government that much of your money? Why?
Yeah, you got lucky.
Yeah.
You
All right.
took the time to go to the gas station.
So I'm going to skip a few things because the show's running long. But these two clips and these two topics I want to talk about today go right to why are you spending your money on our government who doesn't do a damn thing to protect us like they're supposed to or do their job. So this is Senator Howley. Watch this clip. This is about unvetted Afghan refugees coming into our country.
Let me ask you about something else. Afghan refugees. The FBI is involved, you have said in the past, your agency has said in the past, in in helping to vet refugees who were brought here after the botched evacuation by this administration out of Afghanistan. I'm sure you're aware that the DoD Inspector General has said that earlier this year that there are at least 50 Afghan personnel who were brought to the United States who in fact had derogatory information, could be terrorists, could be involved in terrorist activities. 50 of them who've been brought here, released into the United States, can't now be found. That information was turned over to you. I understand DoD gave you that information, asked you to help track down these 50 individuals. Here's my question. A whistleblower has now come forward to Senator Johnson and myself and alleged that the situation is actually far graver than that. According to this whistleblower's allegations, there are 324 individuals who are evacuated from Afghanistan and allowed to enter the United States despite appearing on DoD's biometrically enabled watch list. This is a watch list that identifies folks whose biometrics have been collected and determined to be threats or potential threats to national security, including known suspected terrorists. So this whistleblower says it's a lot more than 50. It's 324. Are you aware of this? Has DoD or DHS communicated this to the FBI?
I don't know that I have the exact number. I know that there are a number of individuals through our Joint Terrorism Task Forces that we are actively trying to investigate as a result of the evacuation.
How many?
Again, I don't know if I can get you the number, but I will see what we can get you as a follow-up.
Of any of this nearly 400 individuals now who apparently have been brought to this country despite having some connection to terrorism, have you interviewed any of them? Have you apprehended any of them?
I know there have been a number of interviews of individuals who came, lots of interviews, frankly, of individuals who came as part of the evacuation. I think there have been a number of disruptions. How many of those have been arrests, under what charges, and so forth, that I'd have to get back to you on.
Last thing, Mr. Chairman, the whistleblower has also alleged that political appointees to the National Security Council and at DoD instructed agency personnel to cut corners when they were processing Afghan evacuees, and rather than administer fingerprint tests on all 10 fingers, for instance, to abbreviate those tests in order to promote rushed evacuation, they also alleged that personnel at DHS who worked on vetting Afghan refugees have been authorized to delete old biometric data whenever they personally want to. Obviously, these are very troubling allegations. Are you aware of this behavior at DHS and DoD?
I'm not familiar with the report that you're referring to. I will say that this was a massive number of people to be vetting in an extraordinarily short period of time, and that in my view, inevitably raises concerns.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that. Inevitably raises concerns, I think, is the nicest thing that could be said about it. In fact, we know that the basic procedures were not followed. We know that the screening process was not followed, and now we know that potentially hundreds of people connected to terrorism are loose in this country as a result. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's nice.
That's a battalion-size element.
That's nice, isn't it? So,
You got a battalion of possible.
yeah, the FBI, who is way overpaid, because let's look at all the stories we have about the FBI and how they drop the ball on anything they do. Now we have unvetted Afghans, 324 of them, approximately.
It's alleged by this whistleblower.
That aren't vetted, but they fit all the biometrics to be on a terrorist watch list.
That's not what he said. What he said was they didn't do. So whenever they encounter somebody, they take pictures and their fingerprints, and so then they're in a system. So
right.
You have to vet them. So even when if you're over there, and we try to incorporate the host nation or the invaded nation, however you want to call it,
right.
To get them involved before they're allowed to be near U.S. workers, they have to get vetted, and so
right.
They vet anybody that's going to come into contact, and they also, if they arrest somebody because of whatever reason, then they take all their fingerprints. I'm sure they take their pictures. They got their eye.
But 324 of them would not have been allowed in this country.
No. What he's saying, that's what they're alleging. There's at least 324.
Right. Out of the tens of thousands they brought in, that would not have been allowed to come here because of ties to terrorism.
Right.
So
Well,
we just
it's not
let,
necessarily ties to terrorism. What are you saying? Like they could have been criminals, so like they could have been
Right.
stealing stuff and
you know,
whatever.
raping goats or whatever.
Well, I don't know about that, but like they wouldn't be on a watch list for that. So it's concerning in the sense of if you think back to when we left there, we left American citizens behind, and this goes back to what was actually it was on the news, the regular news, saying that like we're just throwing people on planes to get them out of there as they shut down the airport, and it was alleged by the mainstream media back then that we're not really vetting everything properly.
Right.
And so now, this is just a continuation a year later that, we knew back then, and now we have a whistleblower saying there's...
The FBI was actually taking shortcuts to make it faster.
No. He's not saying the FBI is taking shortcuts. He's asking, are you looking into this? Because...
So the DOD and the
DHS,
DHS, they were taking shortcuts.
Right, because they were told... What he's
The
saying, the
whistleblower says
whistleblower alleged that they were told to, like, just expedite, let's get them out of here, just get them on the plane,
Right,
and
we don't
let's
care.
go. And they're like, well, wait, there's a proper process for this. Like, if I would have been there, I'd been like, no, I need to get all 10 of their fingerprints. They're like, no,
Right.
just get them on the plane. That's what it sounds like. That's what they're alleging. And so it's concerning from the point of if they're really up to 324, that's a battalion-sized element.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, these are going to be like fighting-aged men that they're concerned about. These aren't
Right.
children and women.
No.
There might be a few women on there, but for the most part, it's kind of like when people are trying to seek asylum and they're fighting-age men. Like usually, you're like, wait, you should be trying to protect your country. Why are you running? Right. So usually, when there's a refugee situation, it's usually women and children and the older population, not 18 to 40-year-old men. Which is also probably, if I, recall from my training and all that other stuff, that's what he's alleging is we got, it's enough to where they can cause some damage if they truly are on a watch list of some kind, whether it be because they're criminals or they could be terrorists.
Right.
So I just got to tamp down your
But we just
what you're saying because it's not good, and then it's not good that the FBI either he's not saying what he knows or he doesn't have that information because generally speaking, if you're going to testify in front of a committee like that, like you have people who produce all these notes for you so that like whenever the press secretary has a topic and you see her flipping through the pages and it's just a tad binder,
right.
like it should be like that for Mr. Ray there, but apparently they didn't set him up because he should have been able to provide more information than what he was saying. And granted, some of it could be for security reasons, so maybe, and it could be Howley grandstanding, and he got that in a closed-door meeting. But he's also making sure that we know as a public that there are at least 324. And it's not good that the FBI is like, I have to look into that. And like he should know, like, yeah, there are a few, and we're working on it. Then again, there's also security concerns. So it's it's concerning.
324 there. There's God knows how many that have come through the southern border. That's just wide open. And you had 100,000 people die last year of drug overdoses from fentanyl. And now the number one cause of death in this country from anyone from 50 down, number one cause is fentanyl related. Yet, I think we should send some more money somewhere else to another country because,
No, we should be looking to protect ourselves. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not making excuses for Mr. Ray or anything else. What I'm saying is that it's not good, and it's disheartening that he doesn't have any information. But granted, most of them don't. But like in the military, I know this from a fact because I did it. I produced from the personnel side whenever the general that I worked for had to go before Congress. I summarized 12 months of personnel data into like 2 or 3 pages in case he was asked any questions about personnel related issues, like from the HR perspective.
Well, I think the military
casualties,
keeps these people accountable.
illnesses, injury, all that kind of stuff, like numbers of anything you can think about that an HR person might know. produce that so the general has it. So if he needs to talk that, he can tab it over. And I would suspect that the FBI has a similar thing in place. And so for him to not have any answers is just it's disheartening as someone who's prepared documents for people like that. So, yeah, not good. And the whole Afghanistan withdrawal was botched. Like, that's not
Yeah.
even
1,300 soldiers were killed because of it.
13.
13. Yeah. But remember 9/11? Remember when we were like, never forget, never forget? Where are all these people? Because they apparently forgot every one of them. Not every one of them. Me and you didn't forget. A lot of people listening to our show haven't forgotten, but never forget. Remember that. Now we're just letting these people in our country, whether it's through the southern border or this or whatever.
Yeah, it's
And remember, they want to take your guns and my guns because we cannot be trusted with them. But these Afghan people they just released in the country or whatever, that's okay. No worries.
The gun thing
Sorry,
is all a show to make sure that if people remember it's we the people in charge. Our congressmen and women need to listen to us and act on our behalf and not on special interests. It all boils down to special interest controls the national government. And you can say it's big tech, it's oligarchs, whatever you want to call it. It's the people donating the most money that have the power.
Yeah. So
Because if they were listening to us, because 68%, is that the last time we talked about it, agree that
I
the
think
country's
so.
headed in the wrong direction? So if 68% of us are saying you're focusing on the wrong things and they still keep focusing on it, they're no longer working for all of us, regardless of your political persuasion or not. So they're working on behalf of 32% of the country,
and we'll see if we can dig into that bill some more too.
according to that poll. But
Right, but we'll see if we can dig into that bill some more for later this week to see what the climate things are that are going to be shoved down our throat.
well, that you just got to look to see what's going on with the farmers that are
Yeah.
protesting over in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Because they're like what is it? 1 out of 5, or no? Is it 4 out of 5 that they're going to shut down? It's either 1 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 to reduce
Right.
emissions, and so they're basically shutting down all small farms.
That make food so you can eat.
Which
live.
goes back to what we talked about a month or so ago with these whole indoor farming things where they control
lab-grown meat,
yeah,
you know.
experimented on your genetically modified spinach and lettuce that can all grow in this 20,000 square foot building under LED, not even natural sunlight. You can taste the difference between a homegrown vegetable and a store-bought grown in even, you know what I mean? It could be organic in the sense that they just grow it in water, but it doesn't taste the same.
No.
Just about everything that you eat that's homegrown or comes from a small farmer tastes way better than what you get from the big farm, the big farms,
Yeah.
corporate farms.
Last story of the day. So I have another video just showing more that me and you are domestic terrorists, apparently, because we're patriots, because you're wearing that hat. Come and take it. Because we always have the Don't Tread on Me flag behind us. Or apparently the Betsy Ross flag. I don't know. Betsy must have pissed off some liberals or something. So here, watch this video. of Ted
Also
Cruz.
included on this is a text that I was particularly struck is the Gonzales battle flag. Come and take it. As indicative of being a violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots that have the Gonzales battle flag on the back of them. Director Ray, what are y'all doing? This makes no sense. Do you agree with this FBI guidance that the Betsy Ross flag and the Gadsden flag and the Gonzales battle flag are signs of militia violent extremism?
Well, Senator, I'm not familiar with the particular document you have behind you, and I'm not in the practice of trying to comment on documents that I haven't recognized. But I will tell you that when we put out intelligence products, including ones that reference symbols, which we do across a wide variety of contexts, we usually take great pains to put caveats and warnings in the document that make clear that a symbol alone is not considered evidence of violent
So
extremism.
I wonder if there's another article out there somewhere that shows, Black Lives Matter, a symbol of terrorism, or Antifa, because I don't ever remember any stories in the media of someone with a Gonzalez flag or the Don't Tread on Me flag or Betsy Ross flag. I don't remember them burning any cities down or doing anything like that. But I do remember Black Lives Matter and Antifa burning down, Kenosha, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle had an autonomous zone for 8 blocks. But I don't remember any of those flags there.
No, it goes back to what I was starting to say earlier in the show, is that they don't want us remembering our history.
Right. So now let's make these people that do remember history domestic terrorists. But I also remember not long ago
They're just trying to divide the country up. So, like, if somebody sees me wearing this hat, they're going to be like, no, I'm just proud to be a Texan by birth.
Yeah.
Like, that means something. Like, it's history. Just like the Betsy Ross flag and the Gadsden flag, they all mean something. That's our history. It's showing that we're American. It's our culture. And this is all part of to get you from remembering your culture and your roots, because you have to have a common culture as Americans. Because if we have all these people coming across the border and they have no idea of what it is for our history, just like if you're going to become a naturalized citizen, most naturalized citizens do better on history exams than our own kids would, because they study it, and it's to teach you that you're now, because you have to become part of the culture, because you can't just come here and say I'm a whatever American and live in your own little society, because then you're not connected to me and you, whereas we're all supposed to be connected. We're supposed to be a melting pot. What that means is we all take all of our history and cultures and blend them back into what it means to be an American, which is, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or as I like to say, life, liberty, and property, because Marxists don't want you to have any property.
Yeah.
So life, liberty, and property, pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Like, that's what it means to be an American. Yeah, we disagree on things, and you may want more of this, and I want less of that. But at the end of the day, we have a shared common culture. And by taking these old historical flags and trying to demonize them, is to make me and you not want to wear them, because we're not violent, we're not extremists. We just want our country to provide for us and our fellow citizens, not for some other country that we're never going to go to with billions of dollars and millions of dollars to spend that are better off spent at home. And so it's just to try to minimize our history and not keep us around that common culture, which is no taxation without representation, and tyranny is not allowed. Don't tell me what to do. We're all individualists, but we come together when it matters most, which is, in our case as a country, is tyranny.
Yeah.
Which is, you can make a link to say that the kinds of stuff is going on still. Like, you're trying to force us to go green without the technology being in place. If you do your research and you look and see how awful it is to mine for
Lithium.
everything that takes to make a battery, and the age of the workers that are working in these mines, you would be appalled of what you're supporting if you are truly freedom-loving, want everybody to be well in the world. There are young kids, like how we used to have in the late 1800s before we passed reforms ourselves in our country, young kids out there working in these mines, stripping the land so that you can feel good about this green car that you're driving.
$200,000 car.
It makes way more carbon emissions and all kinds of pollutants to make that battery than it does driving around a car.
Yeah. Good times.
So it's just to try to get us to not remember our history.
Everything.
Remember your history. Live free or die. Know what that comes from. Know what it means to be an American.
Everything our founding fathers warned us about, a government you don't want, is the government of today. Everything. The Second Amendment, that was to keep the government in check. They are completely out of check. First Amendment.
Well,
they're
they've
trying to get rid of
convinced
that.
people that, like, they've just convinced people to be complacent and that the government will take care of you. And
Right.
the government should not take care of you. We should take care of each other as a community. It starts off in your local town and works your way up to the states. And then you have the national government that's supposed to protect our borders
Yeah.
and resolve disputes between the states, because then you can move around from state to state. So you have a common culture,
Right.
which is, no taxation without representation is the best way that I could sum it up, because we all learned that as kids. Most of us did.
Right.
Right? So it's like the government represents you. You have a government that represents your wants and needs, not themselves. Like, that's what our history is. And so they try to take it away by nitpicking and taxing us to death so that we don't have enough money to buy groceries, and these climate change shenanigans. And just go look it up. Like, this isn't political. This is observation and fact. They've changed it up to where now they've figured the sweet spot is climate change. Instead of calling it global cooling, global warming, ozone depletion, now it's just climate change.
Right. And they're going to fix that by taxing us more, apparently.
Right. Take my money away. That'll solve the problem. Give it to somebody else.
Right.
It'd be different if they, I have no problems paying taxes that come back, like our property taxes that go to the town and school.
Right.
State taxes.
Well, now your electric bill's doubling, so, as now
I can only
doubled this
imagine
month.
how crazy it's going to be because
Yeah.
it's been so hot the last
Yeah.
week and a half.
And just
2
think,
weeks.
though, I mean, soon you'll be forced to drive an electric car, so probably be spending $10,000 a week, a month to go to
I
work.
saw an article where they tried to tow something with an electric truck, and it made it 100 miles, and they had to stop and charge it up for a few hours.
Well, gas generator, diesel. Yeah. All right, positive meme of the day. That's what can be positive, but always stand on principle, even if you stand alone. John Adams.
I've tried to teach Zeta that. That's a big thing is don't be afraid to be an outcast. It only takes one person to stand up and speak what's truth. And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised at how many people might actually be like, oh, yeah, you know what, that's right. Might snap out of the daze that they're in because you get
Transparent.
bombarded with.
Just look around, like literally, just look around at everything happening in this country right now. How do you feel like we're on the right path? Like my neighbor literally has a Hassan and Annie Custer sign out in front of his house. I just want to be like, how fucking stupid are you, dude? Seriously, like Biden was your guy. Okay, I get it. You're a Democrat. That's cool. That's fine. How can you stand behind these people still? At what point, when they come take your house and give it to some refugee or something, well, then you'll be like, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea anymore. That party, and this is an older guy, that party that you stand for doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist.
I'm not a big fan of the party system.
Party of JFK, which is the Democrat Party, right? Doesn't exist anymore.
It's changed.
If anything, that would be the Republican Party of today, from what lots of people say. Because I wasn't around when JFK was assassinated. But
I'm undeclared. My whole thing is do what's best for each other. I got it. We're going to disagree on this, that, or the other, but my biggest thing is the taxes. Like you get a lot of tax dollars from me, and I'm middle class. You get a lot of tax from the rich that, some of them probably have ways to where they minimize it. I was reading something where some congressman who only makes $100 and something thousand a year made millions last year, and he then got $37,000 back in tax return. Like, that's our congressman woman. Like, come on, man.
But they're going to get 87,000 new IRS workers to harass you, audit you, make sure
Which
you
is
pay your
odd
little
because,
penny.
there's that report that the IRS has been buying up large sums of ammunition.
Yeah, that's weird.
What's
Yeah.
up with that?
What do they need ammunition for?
I don't know. That's not a conspiracy. That's not political. It's just a fact. It's talked about in Congress.
Yeah.
I don't know, Tom, but at the end of the day, whatever party you decide to vote for, you need to ask the men and women that are running, what are they going to do for you individually? What are they going to do for your town? What are they going to do to protect New Hampshire when they go up to the national level? What are they doing for, you know what I mean, to protect our country?
Wow, I mean, with this, it's a home run for Maggie Hassan because now she got those prescription drug costs down. Yeah, that's right. Got them down. For what? The government, so Medicaid won't pay them as much. They'll just force the people to pay it. That's all it's going to mean.
Usually.
The big companies are never going to lose. They're not going to lose.
Because they're the big, yeah, because
they're too big to fail. Remember, we bail them out all the time. Airlines, auto industry, banks.
Tim, I'll tell you this much. People can disagree with me all they want to. I understand. But if you go and you do your research and you look and see how bills are written, who they're written by, and who they end up benefiting in the long run, generally speaking, you're going to find that there are lobbyists that write these bills up. They're thousands of pages long, and they generally have loopholes in there to protect a certain commercial entity, whatever you want to call it, but basically the big money donors, whether it's tech industry, food industry, the media, whatever. There's always a loophole in there. Finance companies, like it's not written by people like us. They're sitting around being like, hey, what would be good for this country? What they do is they're like, hey, we're going to write this bill and it's going to look good on the surface, but don't worry about it because you'll be able to. Like, this is just look into any bill that you want that's on the national level and see who actually wrote it. Find out who contributed to writing that. And a lot of times you'll find that it's think tanks and big money donors that it's not written by the people that we hired to go up there and defend us and protect us and make our country perform and function so that we have high-speed internet at every house in the country. There should be a paved road leading to all places. Like, this is easy stuff that a country as great as ours should be able to figure out.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Ukraine.
I'll be called a conspiracy theorist, but I've done my research. I know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, great first show. First day back.
If you stuck with us this long, appreciate it.
Yes.
I'll try to put some chapters, what you'll already have seen if you've made it this far.
I'll make it this far. Better part of the show was the end. We had video clips today.
Yeah, well, that's why
Finally.
We should also do little clips so that people can watch us in little snippets.
Show 63. We finally figured out how to use clips. All right, guys. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. If we don't see you around town, we will talk to you tomorrow.